I first came to hear of Migea with their 360-degree camera solution, and as far as 360 cameras go, it was rather impressive, easily one of the best out there with that solid build quality to match. Now they provide us with their 4K solution, the Migea 4K action camera. You may have heard of Xiaomi from the original Yi camera, for which they were a distributor. Yi Technology then branched away and created the fantastic Yi 4K and the even better 4K Plus. Nevertheless, Xiaomi took what they learnt and applied it to their first own brand action camera, the Migea 4K, and priced at under $120, they could be onto a right little gem. And upon initial inspection, it seems rather impressive with the level of manufacturing quality easily being visible. With a sleek matte black finish, there's really not much to see on the outside. Alongside a single status LED, the 7-glass 145-degree wide-angle lens dominates the front. Backed by an Ambarella A12S75 chipset, the Sony IMX317 sensor with an f2.8 aperture and 8-megapixel native resolution captures 4K video at 30 frames per second or 1080p at up to 100 frames per second. This is powered by a 1450 mAh battery, providing up to 2 hours of recording time at 4K or 3 hours at 1080p 60, which is very impressive considering it's almost double that of competing units. Nevertheless, this slides into the bottom of the unit thanks to a spring-loaded battery door, which also covers the microSD memory card slot, for which you'll want a fast card to handle the high data transfer rates. Beside this is a single 1/4" 20 metal tripod thread, which is important considering it's the only way to mount the camera to any other object. There are no other mounts included in the package. Other than a USB cable, there's nothing at all in fact, and no waterproof housing either, which is a downer considering the camera is not waterproof in its raw form. Hence I'd advise a GoPro adapter for full compatibility with the vast number of GoPro mounts out there. Otherwise, a sliding door on the side hides a micro USB port used to charge the inserted battery as well as for data transfer while keeping it safe from dust and debris. On the top we have pinholes for audio alongside another status LED and the only button on the entire device, used for power and shutter controls. Otherwise, all other aspects of the camera are controlled via the 2.4-inch touchscreen display on the rear, which is easily larger than almost every other action camera on the market right now, and also goes into explaining why the unit is physically larger than most other cameras too. Not a whole lot larger, and nothing you'd really notice during day-to-day usage to be honest, but something to note at least. Nevertheless, the 960x480 resolution screen is actually rather impressive, being relatively sharp and vivid, although it could do with being a tad brighter, as I did struggle a bit when used under direct sunlight. Nevertheless, it's a fair bit larger than most other action camera screens and makes using the camera rather pleasant. And when it comes to use, fortunately the camera is super easy to grasp. With the currently active mode in the top corner, a swipe from left to right presents all other shooting options, with all the common modes being available here, such as time-lapse video, burst, and so on. A slide from the right enters the playback menu, while a tap on the icon in the bottom right corner opens all options for the currently active mode. And there's not too much to go through here. Of course we have resolutions, and a few more advanced features such as exposure, ISO, white balance, and so on. Switch over to another shooting mode, and the menu is tailored for that mode. So it's all pretty simple to pick up and use. No need for instruction manuals at all, which is handy considering the manual is in Chinese anyway. Finally, swipe down from the top to enter a general camera settings menu, basically options that affect the camera as a whole, as well as toggle the camera's built-in wireless on and off. And when it comes to wireless connectivity with your smartphone, I'm afraid I didn't have such a good experience. The app requires an account to even get anywhere, which is already a negative in my book. And even after registering, I kept receiving invalid account messages when trying to log in. So in the end I gave up in frustration. Maybe you'll have better luck, but with that large screen the app is probably something I wouldn't ever use anyway. Fortunately, when it comes to performance, it's a slightly better story. For a camera that's this cheap, it's actually rather good. Bear in mind what you see here is raw footage with no color correction or editing, and with that typical YouTube compression applied. but regardless, capture quality isn't too bad. Details certainly aren't the sharpest I've seen and colours aren't the most vivid, certainly getting a little mushy at distance, but at this price range it's rather good and the footage is generally smooth. Additional useful features include 6 axes of electronic image stabilization, which includes 3-axis gyroscope and a 3-axis accelerometer to reduce blurring while the camera is moving and to get the sharpest image possible. The 6 axes are combined with a software algorithm to achieve an optimized digital image stabilization that creates pretty decent video sharpness across the board. Again, not as good as an external gimbal stabilizer by far, but good enough for general handheld use. Those after smooth slow-mo shots will find the 1080p at 100 option useful, but bear in mind you'll want plenty of good light for higher frame rate settings, and quality will suffer quite drastically with some added grain in the shot. Image quality is also just like video, details are maintained relatively well and you can produce decent images, but to be fair, as with many other budget cameras, you're probably better off using any modern smartphone which will probably produce better shots. When it comes to low light, the Migia 4K is in the same boat as all other action cameras with such small sensors. The more light you can throw at it the better, since the darker the subject the more grain you'll see in the video. There's no difference here, which is expected. Finally, a quick note on audio quality, and again the camera is in the same boat as most other budget cameras on the market, capturing audio that's enough to get a feel for the surroundings but with plenty of background noise to go with it. Considering the quality of Xiaomi affordable products, this camera automatically becomes one of the more attractive offerings in the market, and to the most part it does deliver, with most of the features we can expect even in GoPro cameras. While this shooter is not as powerful as its cousins, the Yi 4K, or its newest version, the Yi 4K Plus, which can record 4K video at 60 frames per second, this new camera is ideal for those who don't want to spend a lot of money on a high-end action camera and are okay with shooting at 4K 30 with good quality all round. The hardware is certainly impressive with a nice large screen that makes the camera seriously easy to pick up and use, although certainly not as bright as other budget level cameras out there. Even so, the video capture quality isn't too bad, certainly on par if not slightly better than most competing units at this price range. The app was disappointing though, and to top it off there's nothing else included within the package, no waterproof housing or any other such mount, which does let an otherwise decent action camera down. Even so, if you can see past the lack of mounts and are not after professional level shots, for general social media use you certainly won't be left disappointed with the Migia 4K.